Sarah.
Yeah. Okay, good morning and welcome to this multi-location meeting of the Visible Services and Street Scene Scrutiny Committee on the 5th of September 2025 at 10 a.m. I am Councillor Robert Wood and I will be chairing this meeting. Please ensure that your phones are switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. In addition, when asked to raise your hand, if members who are virtually viewing this meeting, could you raise your electronic hand? For members in the presentation room, just raise your hand. I wish to remind members signing in remotely of their legal obligation to have their cameras switched on during the meeting, please, to be seen and heard while participating in council business. For the benefit of members at home, Tom will read out which members and officers are present in the room today.
Thank you, Chair. So in terms of membership in the room today, we have Councillor Rob Wood, Chair, Vice Chair, Councillor Tim Bowen. We also have Councillors Andrew Dacey and Caroline Lewis. And for the officers, we have Anna Harvard, James M. Davis, Nicola Pierce, Michael D. Jones, and myself, Tom Easton Precious.
Now we will move on to declarations. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? I don't see any. If any members have declarations in relation to any reports on today's agenda, can you please indicate now? And then, okay. If needed, the declarations of interest forms can be found on the intranet. Resources and guidance members have. The forms are available in Welsh or English. If you need any help, please let Tom know. Agenda item 3 are the minutes of the previous meeting. You will see the minutes attached at pages 5 to 14 of your agenda pack. These cover this committee's meeting on the 27th of the 6th, 2025. If you feel these are an accurate record of the meetings, can I please have a proposer and a seconder to approve these minutes?
Chair.
Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take it that these minutes are approved.
No indication to the contrary, Chair. Therefore, these minutes are approved as accurate.
Agenda item 4 is to consider items from the Cabinet Forward Work Programme. We have no items that we have selected from the Cabinet Forward Work Programme today. Item 5, to consider items from the Scrutiny Forward Work Programme. We have no items selected from the Scrutiny Forward Work Programme today. Item 6, performance monitoring. We take item 6A, performance monitoring items. Item 6A is the business plans. Officers, would you like to add anything additional to the report?
Chair, earlier this year we took members of Scrutiny through all of the business plans that report to the scrutiny or that are responsible towards this scrutiny meeting. So we indicated what our priorities were, what actions would be taken to ensure that we achieve the objectives in the corporate plan, as highlighted within that business plan for each head of service, and we also took them through the performance measures. So obviously the plans are for members today, and we're happy. We've got nothing further to add over and above that we've previously explained. So we're happy to take any questions, or if members want to drill down into a little bit more detail, and we're happy to take you through that as well. James is here today. His portfolio, only part of his portfolio, or a small part of his portfolio, actually reports to this board. But because James was the previous neighbourhood services manager, he's got a lot of knowledge in relation to the services that are reporting to this scrutiny. So I've selfishly brought James along to help me, because as members all know, Mike Roberts, the head of service, is currently off sick, and we're also restricted in the number of accountable managers we still have in street care at the moment. So thank you, Chair.
Thanks for that update, Nicola. I'll take members' questions now as per pre-brief first, and then if anybody wants to come in after we've had the questions from the pre-brief, then just raise your hand electronically or in the chamber. Right, I'll go to Councillor Tim Bowen.
Yeah. This is the head of services business plan 25-26, page 21. I've got 3 questions on this one. The complete tree management service report outcome to members. Do you know when that's coming to the scrutiny committee? Second one is SC22, continued dialogue and works coordinate with Titanium. I take it this is in conjunction with trying to get them to be in roughly the same time as us. Can we just have a bit of an update on the progress report on that one? And the next one then is SC26, progress a working group with other service areas to create a coordinated approach to working with volunteer groups. I know we touched on this a while back, Nicola. One question I'd like to ask, do we know how many community councils or town councils will actually cut in out patches on our land? I know up in Glenna we'll actually paying a grass cutter to go and cut one patch. So can we try and find out, you know, if other community councils are doing the same?
Councillor Bowen, I know you've got more questions, so we'll take the three first for the officers to answer.
In terms of the tree, are you asking, I missed a bit.
It's a tree survey, it is. I just wondering what that survey is actually is entailing.
Right, it hasn't concluded yet. The tree survey, we've had to procure external contractors to undertake that, and it's because of the scale of the work involved. We don't have the capacity in-house to undertake that work on our behalf because of ash dieback and because of the risk of some of the trees affected by ash dieback in their proximity to roads. If those trees failed and unfortunately fell and toppled over into the road, it could have devastating consequences. So we can't wait. So we brought that company in to undertake that survey work. Once that survey work has been undertaken, we think that we can deal with the issues internally ourselves with the capacity we've got. So I think that should be complete within the next few months. As you know, we've had a bit of an issue in terms of the arboricultural service because sadly, Lee Branner, who was responsible for that service, passed away. And we have been through a recruitment exercise to replace him, and we've got the new officer coming into that post, I believe the end of September, beginning of October. So once that person is in post and is settled down, we'll be able to give you an update on the programme of works to deal with the ash dieback, scale of the ash dieback problem that we've got to contend with, and we will have areas prioritised for intervention to ensure that we keep the public safe. So we'll be able to provide that update at that particular point in time. In terms of Titarian, this relates to the problem that we always had where the public thought that Titarian were cutting their areas of grass far more frequently and to a better standard than the council, and the council needed to up its game and actually tie in with Titarian and do as well as them. When we actually looked into it and had discussions with Titarian, it was the opposite. Titarian were cutting less than the council, so we weren't sort of necessarily aligning our cutting schedules, but we were cutting more frequently than Titarian. It's been a bit of a challenge to try and get Titarian to come on board and to align their cutting regime with ours. The relationship has improved, but we're not over the finish line yet. But officers are working to try and ensure that alignment is in place.
Yeah, because I don't know for the members like us, well, like myself, we get phone calls constantly saying, you know, when is this going to be cut? I'm trying to explain to them, it's Titarian. You know, you need to go through them. Yeah. And, you know, they say we're hitting the brick wall with Titarian, they won't cut then, you know what I mean? It's,
yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I know there was an issue earlier in the year where Titarian didn't start cutting, you know, the grass cutting season is obviously seasonal, and there was a delay in terms of when they started their grass cutting, so they were behind from the very beginning of the cutting season, so that hadn't helped either. So we are starting to get there and to coordinate a bit with them.
Yeah, I think so this has happened over probably a few years.
Yeah.
So the first year, and why we were asked to obviously do this coordination work was the I suppose quite well because the approach that Italian took in terms of no mow me. which turned into no more May and June. And in fairness, what I would say on behalf of Titanian is that they admitted to that straight away, that actually they were quite adamant that it would work, but actually they got it wrong, because what was very difficult for them then is to get on top of that, because obviously the grass is at a length, and then obviously sites take far longer than what they usually would. So that evolved then over the next year or so. And close working relationships and regular meetings between Titanian management and the officers, and our management of the neighbourhood and officers. And there's some good links there now, with some really good contacts. What Titanian weren't going to be able to do is meet our cutting regime in terms of frequency, because they didn't have the resource to do it. What we believe is because they then, even though they couldn't meet our frequency of cuts, because they were going to align how they do cutting to what we do, in terms of rather than do no more May, so everywhere's biodiversity rich area, we select certain sites that we're allowed to go, and then we cut them early on in the season, and then once, at the end of the season, they're allowed to go for the rest of it. There's also the sort of nuance issues associated with, vision space at junctions. Do we just cut the meter swathe around, and then we set the middle to go away, but areas that are identified to enhance biodiversity? So there was a lot of detail to be talked about, and that was done probably in years 1 and year 2. Now I've been out to it now for a number of months, but I don't assume anything has changed. Those conversations still ongoing, and if there are any changes, that the team would be aware of them. So if you have got any concerns, obviously I know you've got your members' relation with Titanian, but also make Laura correct the legal team aware as well, because then you can read them again, and I'll do that, no problem.
Okay, thank you.
Tim, did you have another?
Yeah, there was SC 26 on that. The progress with the working group for volunteers.
Yeah. So sorry, the volunteers,
Volunteer groups.
Oh, sorry.
Like I said, I'd like to know if the community councils and town councils are actually cutting part of MPT land, as a favour or whatever, basically.
I haven't got that information.
I don't think you would.
I'd have to go back and find it, but that's something I certainly can do.
Okay, lovely, thank you.
Did you have another few questions?
I have, yeah. And it goes,
Can I just check that on that one? What's class?
We'll have to bring you in after the pre-brief questions.
Sorry.
Andrew.
it goes on to waste services then. Happy to know for a minute. And it's the Advanced Waste Strategy Action Plan with the minimised landfill, recycling and composting. Can we have a bit of an update on what's actually happening there? And I did raise a question with yourself by your teams about the safari rounds. Can we have an update brought back for that as well, please?
Okay, so just where we are with the waste strategy. The waste strategy was agreed back in April 23. We've completed most of the 18 actions on there. There's a few outstanding, and we successfully managed to achieve the 70% target, with a 71.4% is what this council and its residents actually managed to achieve. So that's progressing well. Specifically on the point you raised, Tim, about the safaris. We've had some feedback from members of the public that they've concerns about not having bins to use in the outlying properties. We're getting some samples. We've got some samples. We've got some research. We'll bring a paper back to you with the examples of what we can propose, if you're happy with it for that in the future.
That's lovely. Yeah, if you could try and get that put on something on. Yeah. And the last one, going on to neighbourhood services again, sorry. Give me 1 second. It's SCM 13. On how many proscriptions are we actually doing? Because you've just gone and reduce, maintain information. And I'd really like to know how many people we prosecuted on Aberarthur Beach for the dogs being on the beach inside the seasons from March to September, because there's a bylaw on there, and we keep getting reports that people are on the beach with dogs and nothing being done. Dog fouling on the beach. So I know we've all had emails, I believe, from some woman about fetching it forward, but I'd really be interested on that to see what type of number we've prosecuted.
Yeah.
If you want me to.
So in terms of the numbers for dog food, then I haven't got that with me. We can get that. We get that pretty quickly as well. So I can get those in the survey of that. That's useful. In terms of number of prosecutions generally, what I would say, and I think it's important for you to be aware of that, is that the team are one of the leading in wins. There's been a number of other authorities who, in my time when I was in the neighbourhood, and you know, this isn't things I've been relying on there, but it's like what's going on for a number of years, who have asked to get in contact to discuss how we manage to get as many prosecutions as we do. Because they look at our figures that are obviously shared annually and out on an all-wheels basis. And yeah, the team are a bit of an envy of a lot of the other authorities, but there's been some really good conversations about it. And I think a big part of it is the close working relationship that the team have got with our legal department, because that's key in taking obviously these cases and to get into prosecutions. So the data is available. It'll be picked up now as part of the Q1 performance monitoring, which you have, I'm assuming, within the next couple of weeks. So it will be there for you to see in the next couple of weeks.
Lovely, thank you. And the last question is just on neighbourhood services again. SCPM 15, total area of designated biodiversity bee-friendly areas increase. My question is, how many more are we going to put in before the wards start looking untidy?
That's a balance, isn't it? It's a careful balance to achieve. You know, we, as part of the biodiversity duty plan, we are required to safeguard and improve areas of biodiversity. But we do appreciate that areas can look untidy, and some areas can look untidy at certain times of the year and look beautiful at other times of the year, especially when wildflowers are in bloom and things. So it is a careful balance that we need to strike. We are mindful that there are areas that we cannot maintain as bee-friendly areas on high priority junctions, for example. So we ensure you'll see some areas where we cut in at the edge of the curb for about a metre, and then beyond that is bee-friendly, and that's to ensure that highway safety is maintained. But as I say, what looks beautiful to some people looks untidy to other people. So there's often a subjective matter as well, but we do have that biodiversity duty that we need to.
Yeah. So would ward members be consulted before areas are actually put up?
Yeah, so there's a process in place. So on a monthly basis, the countryside wildlife team meet with neighbourhood supervisor team every month to discuss potential opportunities, to discuss ones which have already been identified and maybe aren't working, and then any change that happens to that cut-in schedule is always discussed with the relevant ward members. And if those ward members disagree with any of them, then the team do not take them forward. Okay. So anything that's in place should be agreed with ward members. And if there are any areas of land that ward members are unhappy with, then obviously please get in touch with the neighbourhood team, and that can be brought up on the monthly agendas that they have with countryside wildlife.
Okay, lovely.
Can you thank your questions, Councillor Bowen? And it was good to see officers from Neath Talbot on the television the other night, highlighting how efficient we are in with our flight have been serviced there and crushing all the vehicles. Okie doke. Next one I got is Councillor Sarah Thomas.
Hi, I'm sorry. I don't remember what question I was going to ask. I didn't think I was asking a question. I thought I was talking about the forward work programme.
I think you indicate that you had potentially a question, but I'm not sure you had it to hand at the time. So we just sort of wrote you down.
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Thomas, I'll go on to the next ones who said they had questions then. Councillor Goldsworthy.
Good morning, everyone. Again, I was going to have a few for the forward work programme, but as obviously the grass cutting, Tim has brought that up. Obviously in pre-briefing, what I mentioned was in regards to what I've seen lately is sometimes we're doing the meter from the pathway, in our wards, and obviously there's some wards are more rural than others, and with the weather obviously everything is actually growing a lot quicker. And what I'm finding is that, say, the crew can come in one day, and like 2 weeks after, I'm asking them to come back and, you know, chop again. So I think if there could be sort of like a look by supervisors and staff, maybe like a community ward plan, whereby we actually do cut back a lot further in some areas within wards, because I think it'll be a lot more cost effective for us rather than asking the crew to come back continually. And obviously then, because obviously like with my own, I can only speak for my own, obviously they do up to the Avon Valley, Penlenner and Cymla, and therefore it's a big area of a lot of green. So I think Tim will agree on that one. And the other one I had, Chair, was basically a suggestion in regards to the local lights and the costings of the lights and that. And recently I was in one cul-de-sac and there's 5 lampposts, same sort of size street as my own, and I've got one. So I don't know if any work has actually been done on looking, because obviously in a previous meeting we asked about every other lamppost being turned off, but I don't think we've actually covered how many actual lampposts themselves are in various streets, maybe, or cul-de-sacs, where maybe we don't need all of them numbers of lampposts. So I just wanted to raise that as well.
Thanks, councillor. And one thing I just want to make before officers come back in, and obviously you answered some of it in your last response, and that is where you have got verges, specifically with brambles or heavy brambles, the collar cut doesn't necessarily work as well, because within a matter of days sometimes the brambles are overarching the cut. And I think that's what a lot of members are finding, is that the brambles, which are more hazardous to cyclists or dog walkers, are causing the problem. So I don't know whether there's an issue with seeing how the verges are composed, whether it's grass or whether it's bramble, but if it's bramble, it's a specific
It is
danger.
mainly brambles, in fairness. Thanks for raising that, Rob.
If I start, and then I'm going to rely on James as well to help me if I can. Yeah, the vegetation, you know, it has been an extraordinary year, if we're all being honest. And you know, I look as if I've been on holidays when I haven't actually been anywhere recently, because everybody's you know, enjoying the beautiful sunshine that we've had, and obviously the grass and bushes and stuff in our communities are also enjoying that weather. And as Councillor Goldsworthy indicated, you know, we've had huge amount of growth. We do have cutting schedules for all of our wards that we're trying to comply with the resources that we've got. A lot of the information that we have within the neighbourhoods team is not necessarily digitally enabled at the minute, and one of the projects that we've put forward to the senior leadership team as an invest to save project is the full digitalisation of our records, and it's linking in with Internet of Things opportunities, so that we can establish where our vehicles are, how long they've taken to do a job in certain areas, comparing them to other areas, so that we can maximise the effective use of our staff and our equipment, because at the moment it's not as digitally enabled as we would like. So there is a proposal that is being put together at the moment for our senior leadership team to secure the funding to enable us to get that to that position. And if we're able to get to that position, we'll have a better handle in terms of how long it's taken us to grass cut, to litter pick, to empty bins, to cut overgrowth back in each of the wards in our area. And if there are anomalies, that we can address them and drive efficiency improvements, reduce costs, and hopefully deliver a better outcome for the communities that we are servicing. So that is a plan that we are putting together at the moment. We require capital in order to do that, so that we can buy the digital equipment that we need. But in time, hopefully we can address those anomalies that Councillor Goldsworthy is referring to. In terms of the lights, we do have data in terms of every single lighting column that we have within the council, because we can operate them remotely. So we don't have to physically go out and, you know, turn them on. And if we need to dim them, we can do all of that remotely from a system that we have available digitally. We, you know, following the scrutiny where we talked about part nighttime lighting, you know, we will be bringing a report forward to cabinet members as part of the cabinet member briefing schedule to give feedback from scrutiny and to consider next steps. So there will be further action in relation to that. We are trying to minimise the amount of electricity we use in terms of all operations within the council, whether it's buildings or street lighting or vehicles. Obviously, there is a big onus on us to reduce our energy consumption, and not only to reduce our carbon footprint, but also to reduce the costs that we are incurring. If you have a particular, Councillor Goldsworthy, you refer to an area where there are 5 street lights, whereas in another area of equivalent size, there's only 1. If you want to give me the address of that area, I can speak to Nathan, who is the lighting manager, and we can look at that in a little bit more detail to give you a reason why that we've got 5 street lights in that location as opposed to 1 in others. So we can look into that particular issue for you.
Thanks for that, Nicola.
Lovely,
And
just
to let members know, on the 28th of November, we have got the grass cutting report is coming to committee, as well as a litter picking report. Ros, Councillor Ros Davis, I did have an indication you may have a question. Is Ros on the call?
I don't know if she's on, is she?
No, I don't know if she's.
Okay, Councillor Andrew Dacey.
Just regarding the grass cutting, I know that in certain areas, it's like patchwork, you know, where they've got council owned and Titanium, you know, it looks ridiculous to people who live in the area, that one set of people go up, they cut like 4 patches of land, and then there's a patch of land left. Then people say, and they go away, and obviously say the council boys have done, and they've gone away. And the people that live near that patch, what ends up happening then, and then it's Titanium land. So when you get the coordination, perhaps swapping a little bit of land here and there might be a good idea between Titanium and the council. Not so much swapping the land itself, but swapping the area, the cut. I know it's going to be difficult to sort of split over, but it just looks ridiculous to some people that they've done certain areas and gone, and then the other areas left. So it's, you know,
I think that was definitely on the agenda at the start, 2 or 3 years ago, and that was one of the items that we were considering. What it was felt back then was that actually Titanium changing their approach from normal May to align with what we do in terms of carefully selecting areas would see significant improvement, and I think it did. And that year, that one-off year was just horrendous, and I don't remember it. So that made a big impact and improvement. Then the further collaborative work that the team has done since with Titanium has improved. Now, that measure at the time, if I'm being honest with you, I didn't really want to pursue too much because I thought we had other sort of bigger wins to hit. Now, it's something that we can look at. We did take legal advice on it. There is some issues associated with reliability and things like that. And obviously, then what happens if Titanium don't fulfill, their part of that, in terms of cutting an area that this would cut. So there was a lot of, complex issues, but not something we can't get over, but something we thought, oh, actually, those wins are smaller than what we need to do initially. But it's something I can raise with the team again and to consider because, especially now so more urban, high population density areas, that's when it's more obvious because of obviously the highway verge set out rather than in our more rural communities. But it's certainly something we look at. And just to pick up as well, Councillor Wood, what you mentioned earlier about the type of vegetation and what Councillor Goldsworthy said in terms of the scale and extent of the cut. Again, just emphasise, if there are any members' wards where you think actually it's not for the purpose or what we're doing could be tweaked, speak to the team and they'll raise them in the monthly meetings. Right, that goes obviously for all members.
Can I come back to that?
Yeah, certainly.
Like in Fairfield, it's obviously highly densely populated. When Neath space, like Titanium, were in charge of a green outside the flats by the school. The kids to play football, the grass was people taller than the kids in the end. So to get that done was a bit of a battle. I mean, so I think they should be specifically for areas there where there's a low green areas, I want a better word, I suppose, open spaces, that we should keep on top of them for the children to be able to play on it. So they can't get into the school fields anymore, like used to years ago. Can't get into the rugby fields because it's all fenced off. So the green spaces are in our areas particularly beneficial for the kids.
Those conversations that I have on a monthly basis, and the conversations that I have with board members are to do exactly that, to identify the suitability of that area of land, or whether it should be used to, enrich and enhance biodiversity, or whether actually it's an amenity area of land as long as utilised by local children, and or whether actually it's an area of land where you don't want local children in because of proximity of houses, and actually the enrichment of biodiversity is something that can deter that and help. So there's because that iterative process needs to happen month to month is important.
Okay, thanks for that, officers. This report is for monitoring, therefore we note the report. Item 7. Members, we will now look at the Cabinet and Scrutiny Forward Work Programmes and discuss any items we may wish to add to the Forward Work Programme. Over to Tom.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, we ran through this in a pre-briefing, so I don't want to sort of be over exhaustive, but just to sort of remind members that, and as the Chair mentioned earlier, we've added the grit bins review and the winter preparedness reports to the Forward Work Programme, as well as grass cutting and litter picking. Those were ones that members were keen on from our Forward Work Programme sessions. For our February meeting, we also have Japanese knotweed report coming, and we're working on finding a date for a workshop on environmental health, as I know members were keen to sort of learn a bit more on what environmental health does. One sort of slight update in terms of one of the additional reports that we were talking about. So I mentioned to members that the Parks and Gardens report is due to come. Initially, we were thinking it was going to be November, but it's now going to be the January the 9th meeting that one we can program in, and I think the Chair said he was happy with that, so I'll add that to the Forward Work Programme. And we did have a suggestion earlier, which was in relation to, was it your suggestion, Councillor Bowen?
Yeah, or the safari run.
Safari run, so I'll make a note of that and speak with officers about adding that. There were some discussions, members, about other items that you brought up previously. So I have had a chat with officers on that, and we're just looking at the best way to come back to you with those updates. So we are working on those in the background as well.
Okay, members, do you have any requests? Councillor Bowen.
Yeah, it's on the Japanese knotweed. It's more an observation than anything. I know we got the invasive species with the Japanese knotweed, Himalayan balsam, and now we're identifying the Himalayan honeysuckle. I get quite shocked this week to see a post on Facebook where someone had asked someone identify this plant in their back garden, and then the post would come up, lovely plant, can I have cuttings? Where can I buy it from?
It's quite pretty.
It is quite
pretty,
but
until it covers your entire garden.
we know this could be worse, and I don't think a lot of ward members know about it. It's dispersed by birds more, and it could be a bigger problem than Japanese knotweed. So is there anything we can actually put for ward members, maybe to put on our Facebook pages to say, please don't take cuttings of this or whatever?
I think no,
Yeah.
Right, if I can just come in there a sec then. Do you think that what we need for the members of the committee is perhaps biodiversity to send out an identification for invasive species to the members?
Yeah, we can do that. And what we can also do is we can do some social media coverage as well to identify, because everybody knows Japanese knotweed, or very few people don't know about it. But as it was only brought to my attention that particular species by my brother-in-law last weekend, because he was complaining it was in the lane behind his house. He doesn't live in MPT, by the way, and I was honestly unaware of it until then, and it's becoming quite prolific. And it is quite a pretty plant, but it will completely, overtake everything else in the area. And so it's not something that we want to encourage people to take cuttings of. Quite the opposite. So we'll do that. We'll get our biodiversity colleagues to do a little bit of an information sheet, and we'll do some media coverage.
Quite shocking to see it up there and people asking for cuttings and stuff like that. I thought it needs to be raised.
Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor. And the other thing, Tom, is if I can say then, when we have the Japanese not read information, if we can just put a small footnote to possibly ask officers to highlight other invasive species and where they might be located in the county borough, just on that. Okie doke, I've got Councillor Charlotte Goldsworthy.
I just wanted to add to, because I love a bit of Japanese knotweed usually, especially the Himalayan balsam is pretty, but obviously the other Japanese knotweed is a nightmare. But it's interesting, as obviously from my stay, Nicola, is that's where it actually first arrived in the UK, was actually my stay for the trains. So a bit of in history for him. And that's all I wanted to add. It's up in my stay all started.
I think I can put my hand on my heart and say that wasn't my fault, because I think it was before I was born.
It was in fairness to you. It was a gift ordered on the big ways, but hey ho, no.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor. Right, and moving on to item 8, which is urgent items. I have none. No further items. That ends business for today, and thank you all for attending. Bye.
Thanks all. Diolch pawb.
Oh, it's really beautiful.
I think you should have all the sharpest, the sharpest chair.
That's